This is one of the most unique electric scooters that I have ever had the chance to review. This is an electric scooter designed by two automotive engineers, one from the Williams F1 racing team and the other from Land Rover. They put their brains together and they created this, the Bo Model M. The first thing you'll notice is that this is not in a standard rectangle scooter box like pretty much every single scooter ever comes in. It's in this funky scooter shaped box because this scooter does not fold at all. It has no sort of folding mechanism in any shape or form. That's just one of the many decisions that they've made to make this stand out and make it very different than almost anything on the market right now. Now, whether those differences are a good thing or a bad thing is going to depend on who you are as a rider. But what I will say is don't just write something off because it's different. I think that this scooter offers a lot for the right type of rider. And I think you'll know if you're that type of rider as you learn about this scooter. So without further delay, let's pop this open and let's take a look at it. All right, as you can see, it's packaged really well and is really easy to open up. It comes with what they're calling an owner's toolbox. So let's take a look and see what is in that. You get what looks like a little adhesive mount for presumably the back of your phone that operates with the phone mount here on the scooter. You obviously get your owner's manual. You get a wrench, a valve extender, all the Allen keys that you need to put this together. And then you also get a little keychain. Nice. You get a really cool looking charger here with this yellow cord, and it is a 3 amp charger. Nice. That is really good. You get basically fast charging right out of the box, and it looks really good. Oh, look at that. I think it's got one of those like moped style kickstands. Nice. I do like that. And there we go, our first look at the Bo Model M. So out of the box, it's mostly ready to ride. There are a couple things you gotta take care of first. The first is this riding platform. It looks like there's like an adhesive. You gotta attach this. This is a lot of pressure here to get right the first time. It looks like there's little notches here. Oh, are there magnets in it too that help it line up properly? Okay, that wasn't too bad. It's a nice foam, rubbery type mat here. Should offer plenty of grip. And I also attached the included phone mount to my phone case here. I'm not sure if this brand, whatever it is, makes their own cases. They probably do, and they're probably expensive, so it's nice that they included this little adhesive mount. You'll also want to download the Bo Dashboard app for your phone, as this is the only way to get display on this scooter in order to see the battery life and the speed and potentially some other things. I'll dive deeper into this dashboard app once we get out onto the scooter so that I can actually test some of these features. So with the deck mat installed, the scooter app downloaded, the tires inflated to 50 PSI, and the scooter fully charged, we're ready to take a closer look at all of the features and take it for its first ride. So let's go. So before we jump into exactly what makes this scooter so unique, let's talk a little bit about the performance and the specs of this scooter. They have two models. They have the M1 and then they have the M2, which I have here. The M2 is the faster model with a top speed of 22 miles an hour. The slower M1 edition goes 15.5 miles an hour at its max speed. Now, given that the M1 is almost $2,000 and this one is almost $2,500, it's easy to think, well, why do they go so slow for that price? Now, first off, I have yet to ride this scooter, so we'll really have to see if that speed is an issue. But once again, they're not targeting the same demographic of riders as the other brands who have scooters at this price point are. Bo has already proven that they can go fast on their scooters. I think they use this exact frame to go over 100 miles an hour on an electric scooter. So they already proved that they can do the speed thing. That is not what they're aiming to do with this electric scooter. If your first thought was that's too slow for you because you have previous scooter experience, then this scooter is not for you. If anything I've told you so far is already a deal breaker, then this scooter is not for you. They're not trying to appeal to a giant wide audience. They're trying to appeal to a very specific set of buyers. Now, who are those buyers? I do want to talk about that a little bit more later in the video, but generally, this is a commuting scooter. This is not a scooter that is intended to be purely recreational. This is a scooter that is designed to be both fun, but primarily get you around town in the best looking, most convenient, safest way. For range, the M1 has a claimed max range of 26.2 miles, and this has a claimed max range of right around 40 miles. Now, given that they are limiting your speed to 22 miles an hour, there's a pretty good chance that this is going to get close to that range, but I am going to put that to the test for the full review. So now the question remains, if this is a premium, dedicated commuting electric scooter, does it do the commuting thing better than any other scooter? Because at its price, it needs to be the absolute top tier commuter. There is nothing better in order for the price to be justified, in my personal opinion. Let's take a closer look at the features and then we'll take it for a ride and I'll give you my first impressions on it. So in exchange for no folding mechanism, you get this really sleek looking chassis here. It is cut from a single piece of aluminum, I believe, and it's something that they take a lot of pride in the durability of. They said they've stress tested this through all sorts of different elements and through all sorts of different riding conditions, and they say it is super safe and super solid. They claim a top rider weight of 260. That feels just a little bit low to me. Maybe they're just being extra conservative, but I do feel like, just given how solid this is, if you're above 260, you'd probably be fine on this, but that is not legal advice. I think at the end of the day, the design of this is going to be the biggest selling point for people. People who take pride in the things that they own and they care a lot about the way it looks, I think are going to love this scooter. It's very eye-catching. It doesn't look like anything else that I've ever tested. And I think a lot of people are going to like that unique aspect of it. For me as a reviewer, it's really exciting when something different comes out. Allows me to feel excited about riding scooters again. Because when I ride the same exact Chinese scooters that come out of a lot of the exact same factories and just get rebranded and have a lot of the same parts on them, no matter how fast it is, no matter how exciting it is to ride, it's really hard to pump myself up for that or to feel like I'm experiencing something new. With this, I feel like I'm experiencing something new, something unprecedented. And that's a really exciting feeling that other people might be drawn to. So let's start with one of their most advertised feature, what they're calling Smart Steer. What you'll see is when you turn the wheel here, the handlebars will naturally correct back to the center position. So what they've done is they've essentially spring-loaded these. And, you know, I can imagine they spent a lot of time in R&D adjusting how aggressively they correct so that when they do correct, they don't bounce back and forth. You can see they've actually done a really good job of that. But what that does is that keeps this center wheel pointed forward anytime that you're not steering to one side or the other. And what that should do is increase stability and safety on the scooter. That should mean that over bumps and that kind of stuff, it will help keep these handlebars in place and keep the scooter from losing control and going into any sort of wobble. Aside from that feature, this is a pretty simple cockpit. You do get these locking grips. They've gone for kind of a foam texture here. I do like these. I wonder how fast they're going to break down over time with your hand oils and with the sun and that kind of stuff. But again, that's something we'll be able to see as we test them. Get a really simple throttle here. I believe the scooter is only kick to start. That is something that I'd like to see them potentially change in the future. Even without riding this, I can tell you that there hasn't been a scooter I've ridden where I don't want the zero start, where you can just press the throttle and take off. I do think you have to kick this up to like 3 kilometers an hour. So whatever that is in miles an hour, 1.5 miles an hour to get it going. There's definitely nothing wrong with this throttle, though I kind of would have maybe expected them to go for something a little bit wider, a little bit more premium feeling, kind of like what Apollo does with their proprietary thumb throttle. But once again, we'll test this out and we'll see how it feels and see if I feel differently once we're on the scooter. You get dual brake levers here, the right one controlling the drum brakes and the left one controlling the electronic braking. Now they've gone with drum and electronic braking, I think for 2 reasons. One is aesthetics. I think that they want the scooter to look very sleek and clean, and drum brakes and electronic braking is the way to do that. I think the other reason is that they likely feel that it is more than enough braking. We've seen Apollo do this for those reasons. They want the scooter to look good, and if the drum brakes and electronic braking bring the scooter to a stop in plenty of time, then they feel that there's no real reason to go with disc brakes. I've always been partial to disc brakes because I come from a mountain biking background, and I feel like sometimes you want the control of those disc brakes, but I definitely feel like it's a lot more important on high-speed electric scooters. And then here's a look at the bare phone mount. You've got little buttons on the side that release the mount, and then you also get a little included bell here. The 10-inch pneumatic tires are the only form of suspension that this scooter has, so we'll have to see if it's enough. I think given the super solid design of this scooter and the fact that they are pneumatic tires, and also given the 22 mile an hour top speed, that should be more than enough cushioning for the type of riding that you're intended to do on this scooter, but we will see. It seems like they want you to be able to ride this scooter without needing additional lights, as they've gone for a bunch of LEDs. I think they said there's over 100 LED lights pointed in every direction down here, as well as an upper light. So we'll have to test that in a second in the dark to see how good it actually is. Not too bad, but you'll probably still want a helmet light just to be safe, but as far as stock lights go, that's really impressive. We can talk about the features till the cows come home, but what really matters at the end of the day is, do those features actually make this enjoyable to ride and comfortable to ride? If it all comes together in an amazing piece of machinery that is super comfortable to ride and is the ultimate commuter, then it will definitely feel worth it. So let's get this attached here. That just clicks right in place. And I'm connected. I'm gonna just go right into sport mode. But okay, here we go. This is literally my very first ride on the scooter. Sport mode, push off. Ooh. Okay, there it goes. It goes into the miles per hour mode. Nice. This has a claimed max output, I think around 1400 watts. I think, I'll put the Newton meters of torque, I think in the 30s, something around there. That is not lacking at all. That has some get up and go, 100%. It gets up to that top speed real quick. We're just gonna start out on some regular pavement here just to see how it obviously, you know, does in the best case scenario situation. No exaggeration here, that thing, it pulls. It is not slow at all. They've definitely firmware limited this, whether for the sake of stability or for the sake of battery life, I'm not sure. But this is, this is a quick little scooter. The handlebars are a little low, but given the speeds that this goes, I don't feel like they're too low. I'm 6'1", so I'm a little on the tall side. So a lot of handlebars do feel low, but they don't feel excessively low. They don't feel dangerously low like I'm leaning way over the bars. Try out the brakes. Ooh, that is, okay, that is really slow braking. That was my first use of these drum brakes, so let's see if we can get a little bit more brake material on the drums here and see if that will help some. But they've gone the same route that Apollo has gone with the really subtle braking. Yeah, that braking time is a little bit long for my liking. The reason disc brakes are so good is that you get that lock-up emergency braking. That's the big thing. If someone pulls out in front of you, if you need to make a quick emergency brake, having those disc brakes gives you the option to lock up the wheels. Now, I know that they're protecting the rider against themselves, and they're really wanting to make sure that no one's going over the handlebars when they ride the scooter. But I might actually also be able to tune that up. I might be able to change that braking. I think a lot of time you can tighten up these drum brakes really easily. But how many people are going to do that right out of the box? Gotta keep in mind, this is everything is out of the box settings. Also, The motor is pretty loud. That's something that surprises me. The motor is, yeah, that motor is pretty loud, and you can kind of hear some vibration of the metal as it accelerates. I don't know if you're picking that up. It's definitely not like a super silent scooter, but it's also not any louder than, you know, the vast majority of scooters. I'm obviously just being very nitpicky because of the price of this thing. Okay, let's be done going in circles here, and let's go try out some different terrains here, because this is supposed to be the ultimate commuter. So let's see how it does on sidewalk. Let's see how it does on some rougher road, and let's see how it does on a hill. I think we'll go do the hill test first, just to get an idea of how it climbs hills, because if this is a commuter scooter, this needs to be able to do hills, especially at this price, because you can get really powerful dual motor scooters at this price if you're in an area where you have hills. So it absolutely needs to be able to do hills well. I also just realized that I forgot to bring my GPS speed unit. That is something I will make sure I do for the full review, so you can see the actual speed, and we'll GPS test the top speed to see if it matches up with the claims on the app here. Okay, I took a look at that brake, and you do have to adjust it with an Allen wrench. It's not one of those little twist style drum brakes. So it will be a little bit more tedious, and it's hidden behind this arm right here. So it will be just a little funky to adjust that drum brake if you're like me and you're wanting a kind of quicker, grabbier brake experience. Okay, let's test it up this hill. We have a 10% grade hill over there, but there's some people on it, and I didn't want to, you know, it looks like they're working out, didn't want to ride past them a bunch of times, but this is a little bit less steep. I'm thinking maybe 6-7%. So kind of more or less what you would encounter in a regular city here. Yeah, no problems at all. I feel like that 10% grade hill is not gonna have any issues either. I'll make sure I test that for the full review, but yeah, that just accelerated easily through everything. Another thing I do notice is that over bumps, this rear like stand, it's not super tight up against the bottom of the scooter itself. And so what ends up happening is that it kind of bounces a little bit, makes a little bit of noise when you go over those bigger bumps. Maybe like a magnet or a little bit stronger spring would help prevent that from popping out and slapping against the frame over bigger bumps. Let's talk about maneuverability and agility. The Safesteer feels great so far. I don't notice any difference in terms of control. Riding scooters is all about leaning, and so you're not turning the bars a ton. You can see how little I'm actually turning the bars in order to get these sharp cuts. And as you saw, one-handed riding, no problem. They claim you can ride with no hands, but obviously say to not do it. Let's see. Yeah, a little wobbly. Maybe if I put my weight back a little bit. Hey, nice. Yeah, definitely possible. I like the fact that you can ride one-handed very comfortably. That is kind of a game changer, especially since this doesn't have turn signals. First off, I need to make very clear that I don't think turn signals should be not only a requirement, but shouldn't be something that you take into consideration when choosing a scooter. No one can see the turn signals unless you're at night. Even the higher mounted ones, I feel like, are more of just like a marketing bullet point. However, being able to actually mark which way you're going with normal like bike turn signals, very, very convenient. There's a little bit of a bigger bump that it handled just fine. It's handling these bumps just fine. You can definitely feel them, obviously, compared to something that has suspension, but I definitely don't feel sketched out at all. You should be using your knees anyway to soak up a lot of bumps, whether or not you have suspension, because for the really big bumps, no amount of suspension is going to prevent you from losing control of the bars. And at the end of the day, that's what the suspension is for is to make sure you're not getting the bars yanked out of your hands. However, the combination of the Safesteer, the pneumatic tires, and this big beefy build mean that it feels just as unlikely that you get these bars pulled out of your hands over a big bump. Because even if you lose a hand, it feels weird to do that. It really does. It's plenty stable, but it feels really, weird to do that. Like, all my instincts are screaming at me to not do that. Got a little street riding going. This is where it's designed to exist, in the bike lanes. We're going a little uphill. It still has no problem getting up to the top speed. This also means that you're not screaming along at 30, 40 miles an hour in a bike lane. You can feel pretty comfortable being in a bike lane and also being able to react to cars pulling out just exactly like that. In the bike lane, you can function very much like an e-bike or like a regular bike. So I'm going to continue to test this scooter, get a better feel for how I feel about it overall. There's a lot to like here, and there are some things that, even for someone that is looking strictly for a commuter about the speed, I still think there are a couple things that right now aren't quite where I'd like them to be. So I would definitely not say that it's the perfect commuter, but it's pretty dang good at doing exactly what it wants to do. I think the price is a big hang up for me. However, they are running like an early bird special. I don't know if it's going on right now, but the link to it will be down below in the description if you want to go check that out and see what the current price is. I think they're running an early bird that makes the price a lot more palatable. I think $2,500 is asking a lot, but the price might not be an object for you. You might be looking specifically for a little commuter, and you're willing to pay for quality and for a certain set of features. And if you're that type of person, you already know that, and you're probably already on the website right now looking at it. So thanks for riding along with me. Thanks for taking a look at the Bo Model M. Once again, full review will be coming out likely next month in October sometime, so stay tuned for that. Get subscribed if you want to see that video or want to see any more about electric scooters. If you're new to the electric scooter scene, go check out my channel. I have hundreds of videos on electric scooters, videos on scooters at every single price point if you're looking for a specific type of scooter or if you have a very specific budget. Go check those out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.